So what is the Pope actually doing on Christmas Eve? Is there anything weird or demonic going on? Why are people freaking out about this article? And is there a tomb of Lucifer under the Vatican? Let's get into it. So at first glance, these articles can be quite ominous. You know, he's opening up 5 sacred portals on Christmas Eve. What the heck is going on? Let's start by noticing that this is actually done every 25 years. This is a tradition or a ritual, as I would like to say, that is done frequently and has been done throughout the years. The reason that people are saying that it has never been done before is Pope Francis has added a door to the list. So this is the first time that 5 holy doors have been opened. In the past, it's only been 4. Now, I personally don't believe that each door is a portal itself. I think that the writers of these articles are just using that word kind of as clickbait because the Latin portas, where we get portal, and it can also mean door. Now, that being said, I do think that there is a demonic aspect to this ritual. Now, there are a lot of reasons why I personally don't trust the Catholic Church, and I'll eventually do a more in-depth video on that subject. But bottom line is I do believe personally that a lot of their traditions are demonic. I believe that they are rituals, and I also believe that they have a very large role in these end times. Now, because of that, I started to dig and I started to ask myself, well, why are they opening these doors? It's more than just a tradition. There is a reason behind it. And if you know the history of the Catholic Church, there is a lot of pagan demonic aspects to these rituals or traditions. One of the first reasons for opening these doors that I found is that it symbolizes the doorway to salvation. If you are a spirit-filled, Bible-believing, born-again Christian, you know that this is wrong because salvation comes through Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ alone. This is what the enemy does. He puts symbols and rituals and things that we must do to symbolize salvation, to symbolize what Jesus did, instead of having people go directly to Jesus. So again, Satan comes in and establishes religion to have people do all of these things that represent salvation instead of just going to Jesus himself. Another example would be praying to Mary and the saints. God's word tells us directly that we are to have no mediator to God other than Jesus Christ. And so praying to Mary, praying to the saints goes directly against God's word. And I know some of you out there will say, well, we don't pray to Mary. We use Mary, to intercede for us. We are to have no mediator. We are to have no mediator to God other than Jesus Christ. We are to pray directly to Jesus Christ. And the Bible also says that the dead cannot hear us, but that's for another video. Now, one thing that they are doing with this tradition that they have never done before is they're adding a webcam to St. Peter's tomb. When I went to search for St. Peter's tomb to see kind of where it was located and what it looked like, I was brought to the necropolis, which is underneath the Vatican. It's essentially a cemetery that is the size of a small city. Digging began in the early 40s, and I can only imagine what they found down here. The pictures are absolutely incredible, but this is where a lot of the saints are buried. Now, this thing has levels down there. It goes deep. So at the first level underneath the Vatican, you're going to come to the grotto, which is a lot of the burial sites, a lot of the chambers, the mausoleums. And then underneath that grotto, the green, you're going to find the pink, which is the necropolis. Then you can find a map of the necropolis, which I thought was pretty cool. So you can click on each of these little compartments to see either who's buried there or what it's associated with. And up here, this P is where St. Peter's shrine is. Now, this is also a map of the necropolis, and it's in relation to the Vatican. So you can see how everything is laid out. And you can see here St. Peter's tomb. So it's directly below the altar. Now, here's the weird thing. When I was looking on this, I noticed down here on you, it says Lucifer. Spelled wrong, but very clearly the tomb of Lucifer. Now, obviously, we know that Lucifer's body is not buried here, but this intrigued me. So when we bring this map up again, there it is, Lucifer, and it's actually spelled correctly this time. So you'll see it's very close relation to where they're putting the webcam in. Now, what's interesting is I took this to AI to see if there was any explanation for it, and I did it in a very factual manner. I just asked why on St. Peter's Basilica's website, official website, is there a chamber that is labeled U for Lucifer? And it says there's no credible evidence, and claims of this nature appear unfounded and are likely originate from misinformation or conspiracy theories. Something else that I noticed that was interesting. So on C, on this person's chamber or tomb, this is what it says, right? It mentions a little bit about the mosaic wall and floor decorations, doesn't really say anything about anything. But on an older YouTube video, I found a description of this chamber, and it says that there were offerings to the dead that happened in this chamber. Not only that, on Lucifer's chamber's description, it had this image, which is no longer there. This is the only thing that it says. And if you'll notice, it doesn't even say Lucifer, it just says Tomb U. And on all the other links, it included the name in the description. This is the only one that didn't. And it just says the entrance to the tomb has been reduced. But if you'll notice, so the green is where the Shrine of St. Peter is. And then here's Tomb U. Here's Lucifer's chamber or tomb, I don't know. So you'll notice very close to one another. So again, this is the image that is apparently in Tomb U, which is interesting because they don't describe Lucifer as Satan. They don't associate Lucifer with evil. He's actually a light bearer. This is a close-up of Lucifer. And this was interesting. So I went to another AI to see if they could explain why a tomb of Lucifer is under the Vatican. And first it needed to clarify. Then it essentially said that it's a good thing. It said that, you know, Lucifer comes from the Latin meaning light bringer or morning star. In Christian tradition, it has been associated with the figure of Satan, but it originally referred to the planet Venus and was used in some biblical texts such as Isaiah 14, which speaks of the fall of a figure often interpreted as a fallen angel. Now, when I was on the search engine and I typed in Lucifer's tomb, there is very, very little that you will find about this, but on the very bottom of the page, it said Lucifer's tomb is a heavily protected area in hell designed to imprison Lucifer, encased in a special sarcophagus with seals that can only be broken by a specific event. And so I went back to AI and asked about the myth of the tomb of Lucifer. And there were 5 steps that needed to be taken. And it said essentially that artifacts needed to be used, which I believe that Pope Francis is using like some ancient key thing or whatever. And it said that only special appointed people can open his tomb, and it needs to be done through a ritual. Now, I want to make it very clear that I am assuming what is going on here. I am just kind of putting parts together and making an assumption. But the fact remains that there is a section called Lucifer underneath the Vatican. And the fact remains is they are putting a webcam near this area for the first time in history. It is a fact that we are getting closer and closer to Revelation playing out in front of our eyes. So while I don't think that those doors themselves are portals, I do think that they are doing things beneath the surface that they shouldn't, and they are messing with entities that they really shouldn't. But again, I have studied Revelation, I know the Bible, and I know what is coming, and I do believe wholeheartedly that the Vatican plays a vital role in the tribulation. And I don't think it's any coincidence that all of this is happening right now before we enter 2025. I truly believe that 2025 is going to be a wild year, and part of me doesn't think that Christians will be here for all of it.